Always be happy, not because life is perfect, and not because people never disappoint you, but because you have learned not to expect too much from anyone. My beloved brothers and sisters, much of the pain we carry does not come from what people do, but from what we expect them to do. We expect understanding, support, loyalty, and consistency, and when these expectations are not met, the heart feels hurt and heavy. The truth is, people are limited. They will fall short, they will change, and sometimes they will disappoint you without even realizing it. But Allah never fails. When you reduce your expectations from people and place your trust in Allah, your heart begins to feel lighter. You stop depending on others for your peace, and you begin to experience a happiness that is calm, stable, and deeply rooted in faith. Expectations from people lead to disappointment. Expectations from people lead to disappointment because you are placing your emotional peace in something that is naturally limited. Many people do not realize how much they expect from others until those expectations are not met. You expect people to understand you without explanation, to support you without hesitation, and to remain consistent without change. But my beloved brothers and sisters, human beings are not perfect. They forget, they struggle, and they change over time. When your heart is filled with expectations, every small failure feels like a deep hurt. This is not because people are intentionally harming you, but because you have placed a weight on them that they were never meant to carry. When you expect too much from people, you begin to create an image of how they should behave. You imagine their responses, their loyalty, and their consistency. But reality rarely matches these expectations. When they fall short, your heart feels disappointed, not because they have completely failed you, but because they did not meet the picture you created in your mind. This gap between expectation and reality is where most emotional pain begins. Understanding this helps you see that disappointment often comes from your expectations, not just from people's actions. My beloved brothers and sisters, expecting from people often leads to overthinking. You begin analyzing their behavior, questioning their intentions, and wondering why they did not act the way you hoped. This mental process drains your energy and creates unnecessary stress. You replay conversations, look for hidden meanings, and try to find answers that may not exist. But when you reduce your expectations, these thoughts begin to calm. You stop searching for perfection in people and begin accepting them as they are. Expectations also create emotional dependence. When you expect someone to always be there for you in a certain way, your happiness becomes tied to their presence. If they respond, you feel calm. If they do not, you feel unsettled. This creates a cycle where your peace is constantly influenced by someone else's actions. But when you lower your expectations, you take that control back. You begin to feel stable within yourself because your emotions are no longer dependent on others. My beloved brothers and sisters, Islam teaches us to treat people with kindness, but it does not teach us to rely on them completely. There is a difference between love and dependence. You can care deeply for someone without expecting them to fulfill all your emotional needs. When your expectations are balanced, your relationships become healthier. You appreciate what people do for you, but you are not broken when they fall short. Dua becomes more meaningful when you shift your expectations from people to Allah. Instead of expecting others to always understand you, you turn to Allah, knowing that He understands you completely. You place your trust in Him, asking for what is best, rather than expecting specific outcomes from people. This shift brings peace because Allah's response is always based on wisdom, unlike human behavior, which can be unpredictable. Reducing expectations also protects your heart from repeated disappointment. When you expect less, you are less likely to feel hurt by every small action. This does not mean you accept poor treatment, but it means you are not constantly waiting for people to meet unrealistic standards. You become more emotionally balanced because you are no longer reacting to every unmet expectation. At the end of it all, expectations from people lead to disappointment because people are not meant to be your source of complete happiness. When you understand this, your heart begins to feel lighter. You still love people, but you do not rely on them entirely. You shift your trust toward Allah, the one who never fails. And in that shift, you find a peace that protects you from constant emotional hurt and allows you to live with calmness and balance. People are limited, but Allah is unlimited. People are limited, but Allah is unlimited. And understanding this truth can completely transform the way your heart experiences life. Many of us expect from people what only Allah can truly provide. We look for constant support, perfect understanding, and unchanging loyalty from human beings who themselves are struggling and changing. My beloved brothers and sisters, people have limits in their time, their emotions, their capacity, and their ability to give. They may want to support you, but they cannot always be there. They may care for you, but they cannot fully understand every part of you. When you expect more than what they can give, your heart becomes heavy with disappointment. When you rely too much on people, you begin to feel unstable because their presence is not guaranteed. They may change, become distant, or simply not respond the way you hoped. This creates emotional ups and downs that disturb your peace. But when you shift your reliance toward Allah, you connect with the one who is always present, always aware, and always capable. Allah's support does not depend on circumstances. His care does not fluctuate, and His ability to provide is beyond anything you can imagine. This realization brings a deep sense of calm to your heart. My beloved brothers and sisters, Allah's knowledge is unlimited. He understands your thoughts before you speak them and knows your pain even when you cannot explain it. People may misunderstand you, overlook your feelings, or fail to recognize your struggles. But Allah sees everything within you. When you turn to Him, you are turning to the one who knows you completely. This understanding removes the loneliness that sometimes comes from being misunderstood by people. People are also limited in what they can give you. They can offer comfort, advice, and support, but they cannot control outcomes or change your situation completely. Only Allah has that power. When you depend too much on people, you may feel frustrated when they cannot solve your problems. But when you turn to Allah, you are placing your trust in the one who can change everything in a moment. This shift brings hope because you are no longer relying on limited means. Overthinking often grows when you expect too much from people. You begin analyzing their actions, questioning their intentions, and trying to understand why they did not meet your expectations. This mental effort creates unnecessary stress. But when you accept that people are limited, your thoughts begin to settle. You stop expecting perfection from them and begin to focus on what truly matters, your connection with Allah. Dua becomes more powerful when you understand that Allah is unlimited. You ask Him without hesitation, knowing that nothing is too big or too small for Him. You trust that He can provide in ways you cannot imagine. This confidence strengthens your faith and brings peace to your heart because you are relying on a source that has no limits. My beloved brothers and sisters, recognizing the limits of people also protects your relationships. When you expect less from people, you are less likely to feel hurt by their actions. You begin to appreciate what they can offer without demanding what they cannot give. This balance allows your relationships to remain healthy while your heart remains stable. At the end of it all, people are limited, but Allah is unlimited, and your heart finds true peace when it understands this. You stop placing heavy expectations on people and begin to rely on the one who never fails. Your emotions become more balanced, your mind becomes calmer, and your life feels lighter. And in that reliance on Allah, you discover a strength and peace that no human being could ever fully provide. Happiness should not depend on others. Happiness should not depend on others because anything that relies on people will always remain uncertain. Many people believe they will feel complete once they receive enough love, attention, or appreciation from those around them. They build their emotional world around relationships, hoping that others will provide the peace they are searching for. But my beloved brothers and sisters, people are not constant. Their moods change, their priorities shift, and their presence is never guaranteed. When your happiness is built on something so unstable, your peace becomes fragile. A single disappointment can disturb your entire heart. But when your happiness is rooted in something deeper, your connection with Allah, it becomes steady and lasting. When your happiness depends on others, you begin to feel incomplete without them. You wait for their messages, their attention, and their approval just to feel okay. If they are present, you feel calm. If they are distant, you feel unsettled. This creates emotional dependence that slowly weakens your heart. You are no longer in control of your own peace. Instead, your emotions are tied to someone else's actions. This cycle is exhausting because it places your happiness in the hands of someone who may not even realize the impact they have on you. My beloved brothers and sisters, relying on people for happiness often leads to disappointment. Even those who love you will not always meet your expectations. They may fail to understand you, respond the way you hoped, or be there when you need them. This is not always intentional. It is simply part of being human. But when your happiness depends on them, every shortcoming feels like a deep hurt. You begin to carry emotional weight that could have been avoided if your peace was not entirely dependent on them. Overthinking becomes stronger when your happiness is tied to others. You begin to analyze their behavior, question their feelings, and worry about their opinions. Your mind becomes busy trying to maintain something that is outside your control. This constant mental activity drains your energy and creates stress. But when your happiness is not dependent on others, these thoughts begin to fade. You stop trying to control how people act and start focusing on your own peace. Happiness that comes from within is different. It is not easily shaken by what others do or say. It is rooted in your connection with Allah, your understanding of your worth, and your acceptance of life as it is. This kind of happiness remains even when people are absent. You may feel moments of sadness, but your overall sense of peace remains intact because it is not tied to external factors. Dua becomes more meaningful when your happiness is not dependent on people. You turn to Allah with sincerity, asking Him for peace, guidance, and contentment. You begin to rely on Him instead of expecting others to fulfill your emotional needs. This connection fills your heart in a way that people cannot fully do. You feel supported, understood, and cared for, even when you are alone. My beloved brothers and sisters, freeing your happiness from people does not mean you stop loving them. It means you love them without depending on them completely. You appreciate their presence, but your peace does not collapse in their absence. This balance allows you to enjoy relationships without losing yourself in them. At the end of it all, happiness should not depend on others because your heart deserves stability. When your happiness is tied to something temporary, it will always fluctuate. But when it is rooted in your connection with Allah, it becomes steady and strong. You no longer feel controlled by people's actions or absence. Instead, you carry a peace within you that stays no matter what changes around you. And in that peace, you find a happiness that is real, lasting, and deeply fulfilling. The less you expect, the less you get hurt. The less you expect, the less you get hurt. Because much of the pain we feel is not only from what people do, but from what we hope they would do. Expectations create a picture in your mind of how others should behave, how they should treat you, and how consistent they should be. But my beloved brothers and sisters, reality does not always follow that picture. People have their own struggles, limitations, and changes. When your expectations are high, every small difference between what you imagined and what actually happens becomes a source of disappointment. But when you reduce those expectations, your heart becomes lighter because it is no longer holding others to standards they may not always meet. Expecting too much from people often leads to emotional attachment that is difficult to manage. You begin to rely on their actions for your peace. If they meet your expectations, you feel happy. If they fall short, you feel hurt. This constant rise and fall creates instability in your heart. But when you expect less, you are not placing your emotional balance in someone else's hands. You allow people to be who they are without tying your happiness to their behavior. This creates a sense of freedom within you. My beloved brothers and sisters, reducing expectations does not mean lowering your standards or accepting harm. It means understanding human nature. You recognize that people will sometimes disappoint you, not always out of intention, but because they are imperfect. This understanding brings patience into your heart. Instead of reacting with frustration, you respond with calmness. You begin to accept people as they are while still protecting your own peace. Overthinking becomes stronger when expectations are high. You begin analyzing why someone did not act the way you hoped, questioning their intentions, and replaying situations in your mind. This mental cycle drains your energy and creates unnecessary stress. But when you expect less, these thoughts begin to fade. You are no longer trying to understand every action because you are not holding on to a specific outcome. This allows your mind to rest and your heart to feel more at ease. When you expect less, you also learn to appreciate more. Instead of focusing on what people did not do, you begin to notice what they do. Small acts of kindness feel more meaningful because they are not overshadowed by unmet expectations. This shift in perspective brings gratitude into your life. You begin to see relationships in a healthier way, where appreciation replaces disappointment. Dua becomes more sincere when your expectations shift toward Allah. Instead of expecting people to fulfill your needs, you turn to Allah, knowing that He understands you completely. You place your trust in Him and ask for what is best for you. This reliance brings peace because Allah's wisdom is perfect, while human behavior is not. You begin to feel supported in a deeper way, beyond what people can offer. My beloved brothers and sisters, expecting less also protects your emotional stability. You are no longer easily shaken by small changes or disappointments. Your heart remains calm because it is not holding on to rigid expectations. This calmness allows you to move through life with more ease and less emotional strain. At the end of it all, the less you expect, the less you get hurt, because you are no longer placing your peace in something unstable. You begin to accept life as it is, while trusting Allah for what is best. Your heart becomes lighter, your mind becomes calmer, and your relationships become healthier. And in that balance, you find a peace that allows you to live without constant disappointment, guided by trust, patience, and understanding. Trusting Allah brings emotional stability. Trusting Allah brings emotional stability because it gives your heart a foundation that does not shake with every change around you. Many people feel emotionally unstable because their peace depends on situations, people, and outcomes that are never fully in their control. When things go well, they feel calm, but when something changes, their emotions collapse. My beloved brothers and sisters, when your heart is connected to Allah, it is no longer controlled by these fluctuations. You begin to understand that everything is happening under His wisdom. This awareness creates a deep sense of stability because your peace is no longer tied to what is temporary, but to the one who never changes. Emotional instability often comes from trying to control everything. You worry about outcomes, you fear what might happen, and you try to manage situations beyond your ability. This creates anxiety because life does not always go according to your plan. But when you trust Allah, you release that pressure. You understand that your responsibility is to make effort while the results belong to Him. This shift removes a heavy burden from your heart and replaces it with calmness. My beloved brothers and sisters, trusting Allah does not mean you will never feel sadness or stress. You will still experience emotions, but they will not overwhelm you in the same way. When something goes wrong, you feel the moment, but you quickly remind yourself that Allah is in control. This reminder acts like an anchor, keeping your heart steady even when your circumstances are not. You begin to recover more quickly from emotional pain because your trust keeps you grounded. Overthinking becomes less intense when your trust in Allah is strong. Many thoughts come from trying to understand why things happen or what will happen next. This constant questioning creates mental exhaustion. But when you trust Allah, you accept that you do not need to know everything. You believe that Allah knows what you do not, and that His plan is better than your understanding. This acceptance quiets your mind and brings clarity. Dua becomes a source of emotional stability when it is filled with trust. You do not only ask Allah for what you want, but you trust Him to give you what is best. You are no longer attached to a specific outcome because you believe that whatever Allah chooses is for your benefit. This belief removes fear and replaces it with hope. Your heart becomes calmer because it is no longer dependent on one result. Trusting Allah also reduces your dependence on people. You are not constantly seeking reassurance, approval, or comfort from others. You still value relationships, but your emotional foundation is not built on them. This independence protects you from being easily hurt or shaken by people's actions. You become more stable because your peace comes from within and from your connection with Allah. My beloved brothers and sisters, emotional stability is not about having a perfect life. It is about having a steady heart in an imperfect world. When you trust Allah, you begin to move through life with calmness. You are no longer controlled by every situation or reaction. You respond with patience instead of panic and with faith instead of fear. At the end of it all, trusting Allah brings emotional stability because it aligns your heart with something constant. You stop being affected by every change around you and start focusing on your connection with Allah. Your emotions become more balanced, your mind becomes calmer, and your life begins to feel more peaceful. And in that trust, you find a stability that stays with you no matter what you are going through. Contentment comes from within. Contentment comes from within because true peace is not created by what you have, but by how your heart feels about what you have. Many people spend their lives chasing more success, more attention, more approval, believing that once they achieve enough, they will finally feel satisfied. But my beloved brothers and sisters, the heart does not become content through accumulation. It becomes content through acceptance and trust in Allah. When your contentment depends on external things, it will always fluctuate. But when it comes from within, it remains steady even when circumstances change. When your heart lacks inner contentment, nothing ever feels enough. You may gain something you once wanted, but after a short time, the satisfaction fades. This creates a cycle where you are always chasing the next thing, hoping it will fill the emptiness. But that emptiness does not come from what you lack outside. It comes from what is unsettled inside. When you begin to focus on your inner state, your connection with Allah, your gratitude and your acceptance, you start to feel a calmness that external things could never fully provide. My beloved brothers and sisters, contentment within the heart is closely tied to trust in Allah. When you believe that Allah has given you what is best for you at this moment, your heart begins to relax. You are no longer constantly comparing your life to others or feeling like you are missing out. Instead, you appreciate what you have, knowing that it is part of Allah's wisdom. This trust removes the restlessness that often comes from wanting more. Overthinking often increases when contentment is missing. You begin to question your situation, compare yourself to others, and worry about what you do not have. These thoughts create stress and make your heart feel unsettled. But when contentment comes from within, these thoughts begin to fade. You are no longer focused on what is missing. Instead, you focus on what is present. This shift brings mental clarity and emotional peace. Contentment within also protects you from emotional dependence on people. When you are satisfied within yourself, you do not rely on others to make you feel complete. You can enjoy relationships, but your happiness does not collapse when people disappoint you or leave. This independence brings strength because your peace is not tied to external sources. Dua becomes more balanced when your heart is content. You still ask Allah for what you need, but you do so with gratitude and trust rather than desperation. You are hopeful for what is to come, but you are also at peace with what you have now. This balance creates a sense of stability in your heart because you are not constantly chasing something different. My beloved brothers and sisters, inner contentment also strengthens your patience. When you are satisfied within, you do not feel overwhelmed by delays or difficulties. You trust that everything is happening at the right time. This patience allows you to move through life with calmness instead of frustration. You are not rushing to change your situation, but trusting Allah's timing. At the end of it all, contentment comes from within because your heart was never meant to rely on the outside world for peace. It was meant to find its calm through its connection with Allah. When you develop this inner contentment, your life begins to feel lighter. You stop chasing endlessly and start appreciating deeply. And in that appreciation, you find a peace that stays with you no matter what changes around you. Freedom comes when you stop chasing approval. Freedom comes when you stop chasing approval because your heart is no longer tied to the opinions of people who are constantly changing. Many people live under an invisible pressure, always thinking about how they are being seen, judged, or accepted. They adjust their words, their behavior, and even their identity just to fit into expectations. But my beloved brothers and sisters, this constant need for approval is a silent burden. It takes away your peace and replaces it with anxiety. When you let go of this need, you begin to feel a lightness in your heart. You are no longer living to please people, but to live with sincerity for the sake of Allah. Chasing approval often makes you lose your true self without realizing it. You begin to act based on what will be accepted rather than what is right. Over time, this creates a disconnect between who you are and who you pretend to be. This inner conflict leads to emotional exhaustion because you are constantly performing. But when you stop chasing approval, you return to your authentic self. You begin to act with honesty and clarity, guided by your values instead of people's expectations. My beloved brothers and sisters, people's approval is never stable. Today they may praise you, tomorrow they may criticize you, and the same actions can be seen differently by different people. If your peace depends on their approval, your heart will never feel steady. But when you release this dependence, you begin to feel a sense of control over your own emotions. You are no longer affected by every opinion or reaction. This stability brings a deep sense of freedom. Overthinking is often a result of seeking approval. You replay conversations, analyze your actions, and worry about how others perceived you. This constant mental pressure drains your energy and disturbs your peace. But when you stop chasing approval, these thoughts begin to fade. You are no longer trying to control how others see you. Instead, you focus on your intentions and your connection with Allah. This shift brings calmness to your mind. Freedom also comes from understanding your worth. When you know that your value comes from Allah, you no longer need constant validation from people. You carry yourself with quiet confidence because you are not waiting for others to confirm your worth. This confidence is not arrogance. It is a calm assurance that your identity is not controlled by external opinions. Dua becomes more meaningful when you stop seeking approval from people. Instead of constantly worrying about how you are perceived, you turn to Allah and ask Him to guide you, to keep your intentions pure, and to strengthen your heart. You begin to care more about Allah's acceptance than human approval. This connection brings peace because Allah's judgment is perfect, while people's opinions are not. My beloved brothers and sisters, when you stop chasing approval, your relationships also become healthier. You no longer interact with people out of a need to be accepted, but out of sincerity. You can be kind without trying to impress, and you can set boundaries without fear. This balance allows you to maintain your dignity while still treating others with respect. At the end of it all, freedom comes when you stop chasing approval because your heart is no longer controlled by something unstable. You begin to live with sincerity, focusing on what truly matters. Your mind becomes calmer, your emotions become more balanced, and your life feels lighter. And in that freedom, you discover a peace that allows you to walk your path with confidence, knowing that your worth is already defined by Allah, not by people. My dear brothers and sisters, the moment you stop expecting from people is the moment your heart begins to heal. You no longer wait for others to make you feel valued, and you no longer feel broken when they fall short of your expectations. Instead, you turn to Allah, the one who understands every silent feeling inside you. Happiness does not come from people fulfilling your expectations, but from your heart finding contentment in Allah's presence. When you trust Allah deeply, your peace becomes stable, not dependent on who stays or who leaves. Walk your journey with quiet strength, protect your heart, and place your trust where it truly belongs. Because when you expect little from people and everything from Allah, you lose nothing, and you gain a peace that no one can ever take away.